Welcome to this episode of Circle Back. I'm Sam Davidson, your host, and today, this is really exciting. We got to go on location with Manuel Cuevas. He is one of our most recent inductees to the Nashville Entrepreneur Center Hall of Fame. We got to interview him in his studio to watch him work, but also to hear his story as usual. You're going to get to hear his story starting as a very young entrepreneur to then taking his business to where he's working with some of the biggest names on the planet. Hope you enjoy this episode, as always, brought to you by the Beth and Randy Chase family. Take a listen. Manuel, welcome.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
Thanks for having us out, here. This is on remote. You were just telling me, so when you were 7 years old, you started your business.
Well, yes. I should have said I started to sew when I was 7.
Okay.
And it all starts with a long story before that. But this time I came to visit my family from my great-grandmother's house. And I saw my oldest brother sewing. And I said, "How are you doing in your pants making business?" And he says, "Well, I probably would do better if you just quit crossing your damn legs, standing in front of me, being lazy as you always been. Why don't you help me sit down in a sewing machine and help me?" So out of guts or whatever you want to call it, revenge, whatever, show off, I said, "Why don't I?" And I did, and I'm still sitting today in a sewing machine.
And how old are you now?
Only 92.
Only 92. So since you were 7, you've been sewing. When you started and your brother was making pants, did you start making jackets? Were you making pants, shirts?
No,
what?
just my own pants because
Okay.
he showed me that. And my vacation from my great-grandmother was very short, so I stayed there like maybe 2 days. And so 25 years later, to make this very short, I asked him, "How did you do with your pants making business?" He says, "When you see a stupid little kid learning what I was trying to learn in 10 years, that bugged the heck out of me." And I just got out of it. I said, "Whoa."
Wow.
And here I am, I said, doing the things that you were doing.
That's right.
And you were an older guy. And he says, "Good for you, brother."
And where did you grow up?
That was a little town called Cualcomán, Michoacán in Mexico, which is North America, but it's all right.
Sure.
I am on the other side of the line. Here you are the gringos, and here are the Mexicans.
That's right.
Anyway, it's funny that you asked because I moved from my little town when I was about 7.5, 8, to my uncle's house.
In Mexico.
I found, and all this happened in Mexico. Because you say growing up, I think it was kind of a degree of growing up a little. I found out, first of all, about 6 months before, that I had an uncle that was a strategist for the army, and somehow he was kind of a hero, and he was a philosopher, teaching philosophy in a university. So hit me pretty hard at the age of 7.5, 8. So I went to visit him and lived with him until I was 17 for 9 years. you
Wow.
know. So whatever I know, he taught me. Everything I know, he taught me. I learned a lot from him, and like I said, being born kind of a super child, all it made me was turn me into a nerd, and my brothers didn't really care for me very much.
Wow.
They asked my parents to throw me out of the school because I was stepping into the degrees.
Yeah.
And it's funny, but in Mexico, if you're an advanced child, they'll move you.
Really?
So I never had a chance to go to kindergarten. I only went to first grade. And from first grade, in 6 months, they put me on third grade. And they moved me the following year to fifth grade. Anyway, I ran ahead of my
Yeah.
growing up, as you were asking. 5 years.
And you were sewing the whole time.
Yeah, doing my shirts and my pants because I had to learn something else besides the pants.
Yeah.
And I had a sewing machine because I could.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people ask, yeah, man, but you didn't have this. Relax. I built my life by myself without any problems.
Yeah.
So I never suffered. I never did anything like that. Except, psychologically, I was a little traumatic with my brothers because, see, as I was growing up, let me tell you, I never went with them anywhere.
Nowhere.
No. And, of course, the girl scenery comes around, and it hit me when I was 13, so I never went out with them to any bar or any. You never go out with. I say I don't go out with guys. I just go out with girls.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that is traditional in my life until now. I just don't find it fun to go. I'm sorry. Sorry for all the friends that I have in the world. I have very few friends, but they're like brothers with me. The brothers that really.
Excellent.
I didn't, because my parents sent me to special schooling when I was, my uncle and all that, when I was like 8. And then I met all the real knowledge power of older guys and girls. And we went to special schools, and we could go anywhere and go to any college, any university, as I was growing up.
Yeah.
I was serving liquor in Brazil when I was 16.
Really?
By Ipanema, where girls, grandmas, daughters, and granddaughters would wear butt floats on the beach. The little strings that I met 25 years later in the United States of America up here. But anyway, the fact is that grew up fast.
Yeah.
Actually.
And you had this skill of sewing and making clothes.
Well, I decided that why not make it professionally?
Yeah.
I was kind of 11 and a half when I started thinking. And I was looking at Sears catalog. And I said, these guys are going to get rid of our grandmothers, the sewers, the modistas,
Yeah.
fashionistas in Spanish.
Yeah.
In English, I'm sorry. Why don't I make a little business myself?
Okay.
I think I could make dresses for all the women so they don't look the same darn well. Every day that I go to any fiesta of any kind, any whatever, there will be a black and white thing, big deal, a funeral, a wedding. I mean, the cakes today are black and white. I mean,
You didn't like that?
I said, this has to change. And Sears were selling like Sweet 16 dresses in mercantile stores, with a cellophane paper over it and kind of full of flies. I said, this I don't like the future of what is going on with. And I started at 7, as I told you before, doing my shirts and pants. I kind of fell in love with a kind of a second checkout. The chicks would always look at me twice. Maybe because I was crazy, because I was wearing royal blue or
bright
red
colors.
or white, or yellow, whatever the heck color, And of course, the guys the bullies will be already
Sure.
on the attack like forever in my
Yeah.
life. But I have never mind that. That's pretty cool.
So how old were you when somebody paid you, bought a piece of clothing
I
for
was
you?
12.
12. Do you remember how much they paid you?
They pay me more than I remember. I would charge for a dress almost the amount of the check of a banker. They were paid like every 15 days. Well, as I remember, I charged a lot of money. Man.
Really?
And the dollar was, by the way, was $2.40. I am correct. $2.46 pesos was $1.
Okay.
So I was charging. I am almost ashamed to say.
But people paid it. They wanted to pay you
Well,
that money.
they
Yes.
wanted because I made 77 dresses my first year. I designed them, I cut them, I sold them, and everybody wanted dresses.
From Manuel.
Yes. And then I said, why not take advantage of my little thing here?
Yeah.
And I did it, and I'm still thieving.
Yeah.
I'm still, like what do I say today? If you don't have a 20 in your pocket, don't even look at me.
And you were still going to school,
Of course.
making 77 dresses,
Yeah,
selling
yeah.
dresses.
Doing my normal life.
Yeah.
I mean, playing soccer and
Yeah.
being good at it. And, nothing changed. In reality, everything was glorified because as I look back, kids my own age, they never had the break of going to another amount of countries like Central and South America for 26 months.
Right.
I mean, come on, we bought a truck, my friends and I. I couldn't drive, but they could.
Yeah.
But in Brazil, I could serve alcohol to all the
That's right.
Americans and the newlyweds over there.
Yeah.
And just light out the cigarettes for the chicks and the guys and pretend that I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But I did because I knew why I was making so much money in that restaurant, because I spoke English.
Huh.
So I would have people actually waiting for me for a table, my table.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of business. I'm terribly advanced in that kind of a thing,
But you always came back to sewing. You kept sewing the whole
I
time.
always did that. That didn't stop me because I had at that time 5 women sewing. All I had to do was just cut it, and they will put them together for me. And
Yeah. And you were designing, you were cutting, they were
that was
assembling.
it. I was
Okay.
just cutting, designing, and then just handing it over to my workers.
Yeah.
And I bought a single sewing machine for one of the fastest and nicest ladies in America, and they were doing it for me, and I was
Wow.
making the loot.
How old were you when you were doing that at that stage?
I was 12, from 12 to 17, 18.
Okay.
So that was quite a bit of time,
Yeah.
Because the first year I sold the 77 dresses. The second year I sold about 125. And by the time I went to South America, we were making about 500 dresses a year.
And then when did you decide to come to America?
Well, again, I always been in America. Don't you be
The
confused.
United States.
Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
North of the border.
north of Mexico.
That's right, north of Mexico.
I was kind of 20, but I had come before.
Right.
My dad was kind of a nice guy. I think they were not ever dreamers. They were real planners.
Yeah.
Because they did something with me while I was in Mexico and while I was living around the area. Because Colima and Michoacan are together.
Okay.
Let's say it's like Kentucky and
In Tennessee.
in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So the travel was really short. except doing it by horse wasn't that easy.
Sure. That's how you went.
Oh, of course, we would do it like that.
Yeah.
Trains, I saw the trains in Colima, precisely where I went to see my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a great thing for me. I learned a lot of things and grew up learning incredible things throughout my life because I was a reader, I was an ambitious person. And I just, when I was 4 years old, I will never forget, I had just finished reading the Iliad and the Odyssey. And I thought so smart of me. I said, if this blind man can do this, I can do better one day.
Yeah.
So with that ambition, of course, everything started developing really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then the help of my uncle really building me an inside character that I could not be a bully. I wanted to be a know-how, but shut up, because my mom used to tell me, hijo, calladito te ves más bonito. What means you look much better when you shut up. I will never forget that.
Yeah.
Still in Mexico, I won a championship in oratory.
Wow.
And they were giving me a gold medal. My mom said, I doubled the money on that just for you to shut up. But they are giving you a gold medal and you're actually making your parents proud.
Yeah.
And those are things I will never forget that are connected with my growing up. Not the money. The money was no object anymore in my life until today.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like... So I didn't come with a dream of being a designer or anything.
You already were a designer.
But I thought maybe I already was.
Yeah.
Maybe I just didn't know. The funniest thing, and I think Miss Edith Head, the greatest designer in the world to this day, an Angelino girl from Los Angeles, that means. I was already 22, I think, when I met her. And she says, Manuel, So she met me with experience already in Hollywood. She says, you have made wardrobes for my movies. I said, ma'am, people pay me for what I do. I got established really quick in LA. I knew how to make my business, man. So I was making wardrobes for whoever wanted a special wardrobe.
So who was that at that time? Who would that have been?
Well, I'll tell you what. It was Hollywood is kind of secretive.
Sure.
Because you're not supposed to.
Of course.
You had to sign that little paper.
That's right.
And I actually started with the union, MPI, the motion picture industry. Mm-hmm. And I had friends, like a guy that became president of the United States of America, which was Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
He was an actor. I met him as a lousy actor, and then as a great lawyer, and then as a great friend. And to me, that helped a lot.
Sure.
Because I started to see people in the way that it's not a movie, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's reality. So this lady is talking to me and saying, Manuel, you're the king of cowboy. You've been dressing these cowboys, and then that scarf that you wear that everybody wears. And I mean, you put that into it. I said, no, ma'am, I did not. I saw that when I was a kid or a child. In every worker, everywhere in Mexico, I said.
Yeah.
People, they do it to sweat, to rub the roads, to assault the carriage, to whatever,
So that's why the scarf, the handkerchief, the bandana is in Western film, is because you designed the costume.
She said that.
She said that. I believe her. We'll go with it.
Well, I appreciate that, but I know when I really,
Yeah.
but I did put a lot of things because people will give me the scripts, and then I had to create the personalities. I think that the only people that really, really got to know me were the executive producers, the people with the lute in their hands, because, and of course the directors. I just met so many of them.
Yeah.
And know about them at the area. You know, one thing is one thing, and the other is the other. The other is show business. I'm not in show business whatsoever.
But you were designing for the movies.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get the design for the movie stars.
Yes, because Edith said, "You, the king of cowboys, Manuel." And of course, we all know that she had a mouth of a truck driver. And she said, "Don't you ever dress those suckers that are going to die in the first 10 minutes of the movie. You dress the stars only.
Wow.
There is only 2 to 4.
In a movie.
Yeah, I said, well, you know. I remember seeing the set of 7, The Wild Man or whatever. I forget that cowboy movie was that. But and I really didn't care about what it was. The shows that I remember are the shows of television, like Bonanza, Marshall Dillon, Hot Chaparral, oh my God, Rifleman, The Lone Ranger, all these things I do remember.
You got the design for those?
Yes.
All of them. Wow.
Well, not all of them,
But yeah.
the majority of them.
Well, how long were you in Los Angeles designing?
35 years.
And then what, you came here, or where did
Yes,
you go? Okay.
I've been here 36 years.
So how did you get from Los Angeles to Nashville? What was the connection? You just said,
well,
go. It's
the
similar to Cowboys,
family
country western.
business, you know.
Okay.
And no, I had come to Nashville because of my jobs here and there, you know. I got married when I was 45, as I had promised myself.
Promise yourself that? Okay, good.
You know, I mean, 35, I'm sorry.
Okay.
A little mistake of 10. Well, sometimes, you know. See, this is what happens to you get to be my age.
I know. I
You
won't
start
get old.
kind of,
Promise.
you know. But in reality, it has been a beautiful ride for me. The fact that you get to know so many important people and you get, you know, iconic people. They are iconic people.
Of course.
Like Elvis, like Michael Landon in Bonanza, like Michael Jackson in rock and roll, like the Grateful Dead, like
Mick Jagger?
Mick Jagger, like
Burt Reynolds,
Keith
Hank Williams,
Richards,
Johnny Cash, Loretta Lynn, Porter Wagoner. They all call you.
And of course, you know.
How do they find out about you?
Well, you know, I always try to be funny when somebody like you asks me this.
Okay.
I call them in their private
call them?
number.
Okay.
I didn't know they call and I mean, people find you.
Right.
You know, I imagine it's like cocaine. If you're a druggie, you find
it. But
right?
and you were their drug because they wanted something that nobody else would have, that would look different.
Well, I
that had a
make
certain
only
look.
one of a kind.
One of a kind. So not like the Sears catalog.
I just make one of a kind, and I don't care if I just want to have the say so, even when it was a great movie, you know. And people will say blah blah blah, and I say blue blue blue, you know.
But what about Johnny Cash? You dressed him.
Well, yeah.
And you helped him decide, or you decided for him that he would wear black?
I decided that, yes. And I've known him since 1956, just imagine. Friends, and with all the rebels, with Waylon, with him, with Ray Price, I could mention you a bunch of them. I don't want to mention them sometimes because I know I'm going to be not mentioning somebody. The Williams, 4 generations.
Of Williams.
Yes.
Wow.
The Cashes, 4 generations. You know, it's just like, it's kind of weird, but if you're there, you know, I'm kind of like the trash can. Everybody goes and drops something in there, and I get to know people like that. And I am very pleased that, and sometimes I have felt glorified to meet beautiful people that were simple people that, you know, like Robert Six, he used to own Continental Airlines.
Okay.
Sam Davidson. Sam Davidson first, when people used to wear minks, and all the chicks wanted to wear minks, even in the news. You know, now they could be killed by a dog if they put an animal on them.
Sure.
You know, it's kind of, but I've seen the changes throughout all these years, and I love fashion. I love the fashionistas.
Yeah.
But like I explain people, I said, when do you become this? They says, I loved it. It was my dream, blah, 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 blah. I said, you know, it's never my dream. To me, it was a business. And then the time came when I needed to do something. And it was always called like money, like businesses.
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of, the business savvy thing came also from my father, because he has that nice Jewish talk. And please, Jewish people, I have 2 families of Jewish people. I have belonged to them, so I understand it. But I love the way they think. Everything in business is admitted, right? And everything is for sale. So we could get protocols over that, and virginities, and religions, and whatever, you know. But I am away from that. I have no time for that kind of
You
stuff.
just want to make clothes.
That's right.
But you build friendships with all these people. With this painting here,
You
with
become-
you and Loretta Lynn. I mean,
You become friends with them.
Yeah.
It's like Dolly, my little Dolly. She's so beautiful. Oh my God, I'm so happy for her and her success and all this. And Emmy Lou, come on, you know. I could say a lot of things about all my buddies. We were talking about Johnny Cash. I remember one time when he was being interviewed by a great interviewer. Says, Mr. Johnny Cash, you have had everything in life. Says, I guess, what else would you like in life? He said, bring me Emmy Lou. I love that. But those are part of the stuff that really happen in life.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to see that. Back to Robert Six and Sam Davidson. They introduced me to a guy, 76-year-old.
Okay.
Norman, I mean, Willard Rockwell. I said, oh my God. I said, I already dressed David Niven, and you're bringing me this client. and Mr. Rockwell says, please. Yes, sir. He said, I want you to know, young man, that my heroes, Roy Rogers and Gene Autry, I shook hands with him. I said, thank you, sir.
Wow.
Now I know how to dress you.
Okay.
Now, but you look like really David Niven, something like I already dressed. I felt like, you know, come on, enough is enough, right?
Yeah.
And 2 years later, he called me from Morocco. Yes, sir. What can I do for you? He says, I just call you to let you know that I'm a party with the king of Morocco. And he looks at my coat and he asks me, who made my coat? And I open my coat and showed your name. And he opens his coat and shows me your name too. I didn't know you dressed the king of Morocco. I said, well, I didn't know either, sir, but that's the way it is.
Wow.
Life is
Yeah.
the way it is. And honestly, for me to make clothes like for Salvador Dali, or to make a Western suit for shorter but famous too, and same track of thing, Picasso, it's great things.
Sure. Yeah, I would
You
agree.
know who's going to know that? I mean, come on. Like,
Yeah.
The Kennedy family, actually, Bobby was the one that asked me to fly to Mexico City to measure Pablo because he couldn't come to the United States because he was qualified of whatever, communist or whatever. I don't enter those things.
No.
But you know who was going to think that Paloma Picasso, his daughter, will be giving me an award in Washington and calling me the best designer in the world. I said, wait a moment. I'm not the best of nothing.
Wow.
The best does not exist. I could be one of the better ones, but keep me human level, please.
What are you most proud of?
I think what really makes me happy, and I see this almost every week of my life, is when some of my clients put on the stuff that I make for them.
Yeah.
And they go, wow, like a little doggy. I said, oh, yay, that's me, man.
Yeah.
I like to please. And I feel very satisfied with what I do. And maybe that's why I tell them when they ask me, say, when are you going to retire?
Yeah,
I
that was my next question.
Never retire. What for? I mean, I never worked an hour in my life, so I love what I do. And I really, honestly, it's something new every day. So instead of getting dormant about what everybody does, like the guy that sets the tires on the cars and the motor line, that would kill me,
Sure.
But those things I prevented through the years. So to me, as you saw me sitting down there sewing, I'm still doing it all the time, and I love it. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I think I will croak off if I quit that, because it's fun. I miss it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I do besides sewing. I like to bet the ponies, not for the money that I'm gonna make. And sometimes I'm so lucky enough that I make, but I love stuff like that. Anything that challenges me, I'm there.
What advice do you have to somebody starting a business, clothing business, any business?
Well, any business will be just like I tell my students, and I'll tell you, I'll say this again and again. I have taught children all over the world how to sew. You see, one gets abusive in the word sometimes. I gotta really respect my semantics. Okay, in the majority of colleges I have, give a little talk, a little teaching. And the proudest thing for me is to see somebody really succeed. And I'm full of those kids in the world. So what advice? The advice is, since we're talking fashion anyway.
Yeah.
Well, get your tape, put it in front of your eyes, and measure the efforts and measure your dreams with that kind of thing. If your efforts are as big as that measured, that'll take you somewhere.
Wow.
You gotta work. Because if you don't do it, you'll never make fun out of work. You gotta have fun with what you're doing.
You still having fun?
Oh, man. I'll tell you, I miss it. I miss it. And if you say, well, vacation, and I heard this thing like for so many years. Don't you ever take a vacation? I said, I'm on vacation. I'm on vacation.
Well, and
every
people are
day.
still calling you. People are still ordering.
Oh, my God, from everywhere.
Taylor Swift? Taylor Swift call you?
No, but I know her. I know her. I
Yeah,
know who's walking
course.
her dog over there by my building in Nashville and saying good morning, walking her dog on Saturdays and all that. But I don't think she ever needed me for anything. I mean, what she does is what she does. You know, I know famous people like that, like Joanne,
Sure.
Gaga, Lady Gaga, others, you know. I mean, like our beautiful girls, like Dolly that we were talking about. You know, we initiate something.
Yeah.
Get on with it, you
can
know?
do it, yeah.
Get yourself somebody that could... You can't serve one client. But I have had that. I served John all his life, Porter Wagoner all his life, Ray Price all his life. There is a liking that goes on, the friendship,
Yeah.
you know. It's just fun, the Waylon Jennings, and then his kids, his wife, you know, once, you know.
Yeah.
Because I like to initiate the people, especially those that, like Marty Stewart. Come on, that kid. Oh my God. We're just great friends for years and years and years and years. You know, he's getting older than me, but the heck, you know, I don't mind that either.
And do you think that's something special about Nashville? That as you've met these people and they become friends, even though they're buying clothes from you, is that unique to Nashville?
It is, because Nashville has the magic of hospitality. It's not Hollywood, okay? Hey, I learned and created a lot of things from Hollywood. I took them with me and brought them to Tennessee, okay? Why did I get here? Because LA was getting a little too disturbing, you know, like somebody shooting on my windows twice in 1 year, and then going to the police and say, look, this is, oh, come on, you collect your insurance and you're fine, and then we have so many problems. It's a problem for us to get the heck out of here. That's what my wife and I said. You know, of course, you know, that happened. And the rest is history, man. You know?
Yeah.
It's just fun to, I don't know. I've been very lucky. That's I blame it on that. And knowing people and get to know them personally and this talk to them, you know. Some of them I consider my friends, honestly, because we became friends. I mean, lots of them, but I mean lots of the actors, oh my God, a million of them, you know, and singers and songwriters. And it's so funny. We all need each other, you know. I keep saying this in every interview, you know, without a script, there's no movie, right?
Right.
Without the songwriters, there is no artist.
That's right.
You know, it's the way it is. I mean, without moms, there is no children. You know,
Right.
come on. I mean, I could go on forever and ever in a lot of things because you grew up learning these little details. And you know, I was just a nerd as I was growing up. I mean, come on. I will always repeat something. One of the most famous girls in my schooling years and years and years ago said, "Then when are you going to look at me?" I said, "My eyes are too busy looking at the flies on the wall. You know, I'm not going to grow up having children when I am 12 or 13 or something." I can't even believe that was my mother. It's a good example of that. I mean, she got married at 13 and
Wow.
she became a mother like being a tortilla maker, you know?
Yeah.
Every year one or God knows, you know. We were a bunch of us. But I have loved that. And
Yeah.
and it's a thing of the past nowadays, right? Well, in our dear America, you know, we live in the grandest hemisphere of the world, I believe. I've been all over the world 3 times. My experience is there is very little of nothing that I want to put anybody down, but America is full of glory and full of... We're intelligent people. We're out there, man. We believe in making things better and better and better. All I want everybody to just... What we need nowadays, of course, is just make more love, man. Make America love again. You know, that's what we need to do. And I think we're going to get it, you know, because always when we get into risky stuff, we get into better things. So if we discover something, it's just like, you know, it's not about breaking the egg, it's about savoring for breakfast.
Man, that's a good word to end on. Manuel, thank you for telling us these stories, for telling us your story about how you started sewing at 7 and are still sewing, and all the success
still doing
you've had.
it, man.
So congratulations.
It's a kick-ass thing, man. I love it. I really do.
Well, good. Well, thank you for your time today.
You are so welcome, and thank you for coming over here. And I hope you know you enjoy this place.
Absolutely.
If you see anything wrong, let me know.
Okay.
I'll change it.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that in-depth discussion with Manuel. It was so awesome to see what he does, but also to hear the history of it. As always, Circle Back is brought to you by the Beth and Randy Chase family, as well as Nashville Post. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to share and review wherever you enjoy podcasts. We'll see you next time.